So, test. Okay. Hello, guys. Welcome to this month's Patreon. By the way, I released a new course, Macro Environment Design. You can check that out on YouTube, and I will leave you a link to there if you want to check the course out. Yes. So, what I want to do with you is on Twitter. I think I posted that. Let me have a look. Here, I posted those style frames here. So Patreon, of course, Vellum X Fabric. For example, you can use your own fabric textures, of course, or you can buy some. So what I can highly recommend are, for example, from Flip Normals, I think. Um, they have like this tile-able texture pack here, so they are really nice and got a good quality to them, nice resolution, etc. And yeah, I just basically amplified those textures onto the surface here. But what I also wanted to show you, what I did, maybe you want to see that, for example, next month. What I also did is build like a proxy instance with a little bit of, yeah, how can I call it, like knitting experimental geometries on top of that. And let me set the right camera here. And you will basically get something like that, but on a geometry slash proxy level. So you will, or you can achieve something like that then with proxies. So I think that would be cool for next month, I think. For a next month tutorial. And what I then also want to do with you next month, because I'm currently curious about R&D and exploration in that kind of space. So please leave me a comment or write me. Like megastructures. So creating megastructures with, for example, RS proxies, or basically in Houdini with maybe, I don't know, tiling, extruding for each loops, etc. So yeah, just leave me feedback if you want to see that, and of course I can always do a poll on that, so you can decide what you want to see. But I think that would be really nice for next month. And I basically amplified that on the structure here. So we will start with a basic setup here, and yeah, so let's get started. I can close that Houdini version. I showed you the textures. That's also nice. Okay. So what I want to do basically in the first iteration, I want to build up like an organic shape, so we can then further explore that shape and manipulate it. So let's start basically with a sphere. I will pipe that in a primitive type on polygon, and then, for example, you can just scale it a little bit. For example, 1, and let's go a little bit thinner, maybe 0.35 and 1 on, or 0.85 on the Z-axis. And then what I want to do, VDB from polygons. So that will be our let's call that initial input or shape. Let's call it shape, and then we will basically convert that to a fog VDB. So VDB convert VDB from polygons. Convert that to density, and let's have a look here. Okay, 1230 53 voxels, that's not enough, so we can bump that up, for example 0.01. I think I also go with 0.01 here. Then we want to manipulate our voxels. We can do that, of course, in several ways. There are really cool nodes. For example, the cloud noise. That's a really nice node. So be sure to check that out, to play with that. Let's just convert that to polygon here to show you it. Polygon and ISO value. So you can create a really nice looking geometries with that, especially when you pipe up the resolution on the VDB from polygons here. Let's go for, I don't know, 0.005 here. And just try it out, for example. So go with the cloud noise, try it out. The shapes that the cloud noise produces. You can get really organic stuff when you, for example, dial down the octaves and the roughness, of course, and then, for example, amplitudes 0.5. Let's have a look how that will turn out. And then, and then you can basically direction, you can play with that too, but what you basically can do, you can smooth it out in the end with a smooth node, or I don't know, I think a VDB process would be better, but you can also get really nice organic shapes with, for example, the cloud noise. So let's just keep that in mind here. Cloud noise is also good. What I did here is simply played with noises in a volume warp. So place down a volume warp here and call that maybe manip, or let's call create noise. And we dive inside. And for example, I really like the anti-alias noise for that. So position to position and noise into density. And then grab our convert here and the right input, of course. And you can see it's pretty rough. So what we can do, dial down the roughness and then play with the frequency, for example. So I want to go with a pretty low frequency, and I want to play with the offset, because with that kind of input of a really low or relatively low frequency, and with the offset you can create nice nice shapes, for example. I will go with that now, and then what we can do, we can expand that shape in a VDB process. So again, VDB from polygons. Let's dial that voxel size down, so we get a nice resolution here. And then we can place down a VDB reshape SDF, and dilate that, for example, to, I don't know, 15, for example. Let's go with 15. And we can again get another process on the VDB smooth SDF. VDB smooth SDF. Pipe that down and now smooth that thing out here. For example, filter voxel radius 2, iterations 50. And we will get a really nice, cool looking, smooth mesh. What you also can do, you can basically invert the whole thing here. And you will get the other shape. So what you could do, what is also nice, I know that's a lot of R&D, but I hope you like it. You can copy the whole thing, you can copy that whole thing here and delete the invert here, pipe that in here, and with this kind of dual setup now, you will end up with two different meshes or two different VDB clouds. And of course you can then convert them, for example. Let's just convert that to polygons and that to polygons. And you will then have like that shape in the other shape and can experiment with that. So invert is a nice way to go. But this also cool, you can basically invert the amplitude, so you can invert the noise and get like a basically like a dual shape output. So if you merge those two here, you will get like a dual shape output. That's pretty cool too. So we can then pipe that back into here. But I think I don't know if the reshape is too big and we will get intersection, but let's have a look. If you merge those two, here you will get like this really rough dual shape. That's pretty cool too. So you can play with that. Invert it, play with it. Okay, so what we did now, we did basically that step with a little bit more of exploration. After that you can smooth it a little bit. I always like to smooth it so it can just see just a little bit of smooth here. That's always good. And now what we will do, we will build up our sim and our Voronoi in a loop. So what we can do now here, let's just place a null for organizational purpose out base, and let's gather points on that. With those points, for example, I don't know, 15 for now, we will place down a Voronoi, and what I want to basically do, I want to split our geometry. Let's reverse that here. So we now splitted successfully our shape into different pieces. Of course you can, for example, disable the relax iteration to get a little bit more random pieces, or you can keep it on to get a little bit more of more distributed pieces. Then what I want to do, I want to build up a loop here with transform, VDB, blah blah blah, to separate each shape and remesh it. What we can use, for example, to have a look, set down the exploded view, and now you can see, aha, I got here that piece, here that piece. Maybe I want to dial in another seed to maybe get some different iteration. We'll place down a for each connected piece. Let's color that loop here. And we will start with that piece. Here what is nice to use is the transform. So we will transform the piece, and you can use the centroid function. I already got that saved here to quickly access that. So on the pivot translate, just type centroid, open bracket 0, 0, and then Again 0,1 and again 0,2. And now your pivot is basically placed in the center of the given geometry, and now we can scale it a little bit down, for example 0.65. And now you will end up with something like that, scaled down pieces in the loop. Then a VDB from polygons again. We will need a convert, and we will need a VDB smooth. So convert smooth. Let's get a voxel size, let's get a good smoothing here, I don't know, 10 for example, and convert it back to polygons, and let's have a look here. How that will look. Okay, maybe we can dial down the smooth a little bit, maybe it's too harsh, so for example 5, that should be fine for now. Yeah, that's looking good. And now what we can do, we can remesh it basically. So place down remesh. What we also of course can do, if that's too much, you can scale that for example only by a multiplicator of 0.85. And then let's have a look here. So this is our given topology here, and of course we can get down the target size, whoops, maybe to 0.01 for example, and the smoothing to 0.25 and iterations to 5 to get a good remeshed mesh. Then the loop will run through that, you can also compile it, and we will end up with something like that. Now we can build up our basically our vellum balloon thing. So vellum configure balloon, place that down. Then what we will need to do is to enable on the vellum cloth. It's basically already enabled the output stretch group, and on the vellum pressure we got our output group on the pressure constraints, so we need to put that out, stretch. And what we then can do, we can place down a vellum solver, pipe the geometry into the geometry, the constraints into the constraints, dive inside here, get a vellum constraints properties, and we want to work on the group on our stretch constraints and the rest length scale. We will then animate that, for example from 1 to 3, just to try it out for now. Oh, and we need to disable the gravity for now. So now you can see we will basically blow up our mesh here. So that's pretty cool. For example, I don't know, till frame 8 or till frame 9 or 7. Let's use that. I will place down a time shift here. And delete channels, so this is now locked. Of course, what you also can do, you can use the stash node to stash the input. And now again, for example, what I did here, if you have it, exercise quad remeasure for a really nice topology. Let's run that beast in a loop. So this is now our geometry here, and then we can use the exercise quad remeasure. Be sure to get it. It's a really nice tool to use, especially for remeshing in loops, etc. And you will get a really nice topology. And the cool thing is you can run it, for example, in loops. What you also could use is the instant meshes from labs. So the instant meshes, it will also remesh your topology and quads, and it's also pretty good. So for example, 1500 polys here. Yeah, you can see the difference a little bit from the mesh flow, etc. So you can run that in a loop, and then for example you can unwrap the whole thing to get UVs. We'll do that too, and maybe, I don't know, maybe auto labs UVs from the lab node tools. So what we can do here is basically place another for each, or you can do it in the for each above. We can subdivide that whole thing, and then we can unwrap it. Labs auto UVs, and let's hit a quick shade. Yeah, to get really nice UVs here. So you can basically let that run in a loop. What I want to do, let's go, I don't know. You can also overblow it, that's also pretty cool. Let's go with frame 7 here. Let that remesh. And then we can also let it remesh here, or basically subdivide it, get the UVs done. That's pretty fast. You can also compile it with a compiled block. So you can, I think you also can compile an exoside remesher. No, not that auto UV. I want to quick shade it. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. And then we can place null here. Then we can dive up and I'll just save that here. Let's just save it. I will save it again for you. Let's just delete the background and everything else. And it will need to cook again. Oh my god. We can cache that, for example. Then the UV thing. It looks like a finger, I don't know why. But I really love that shape down here, so you, like, for example, that perspective. We will have a look in look development. So file cache, let's just get it one frame out here. Single frame, then the current frame. Let's call it cache remeshed or quad, I don't know, velum. Cache quad velum, save the disk, bam, it's out, and of course load from disk. Perfect. So we now got our frame here. Frame 8 is exported, and then we can start. Let's delete that. Geo velum. Let's call it velum. Then we will need a camera. Let's place down a camera here. Let's get a roughly like a, I don't know, like a rough U. Or what we of course also can do, we can always dive up here and play with the offset. To get another kind of input, for example. Oh, that's also looking pretty cool. Let's have a look at that form. Let's go up here and let's go here and let's view some forms here. Of course, what you also can do, you can play a little bit with the frequency. Oh, that was nice. Wait. That was cool. Let's go with that. I like that. Where we don't need to blow it up too far, because when you will dilate that, for example, too much, there will be one error. Let's see how the okay, the smooth will basically eliminate that geometry down here, but if your smooth will not eliminate it, you can place down VDB by connectivity, VDB segment by connectivity, and you can basically blast everything else than surface 0. So delete non-selected, and you're basically done. And we can of course color it here again white. And then let's have a look on the exploded view. Okay, looking good. And so you can basically experiment with those forms. Let's cook them to frame 8. Or can even cook them further to get like really organic structure in here, but I want to go like for 8. I think 8 is nice. Let's go 8 and stash that. And remesh that again. So that should work. Yes, perfect. Let me just. Okay. Does the sound work? Yeah. Okay. Good. And then we can basically reset the cache here and unwrap that again. And of course, what you also could do, you can also make that whole structure time dependent and then cache out several different versions. Let's use that. So now we got our geometry here. Let's go for 6x7. 6x7 and multiplier 0.35 for now. And let's go for a nice. I like that here. I'm currently looking what angle we could use here. I also like that angle here. Let's go for that. Let's go like for an overview shot. Now we can place down a material network or a SMAT and a RUP. Basically our out network, our rendering network. Let's go for redshift advanced 0.05 GI on brute force for now. Acceleration, that should be fine. And now an RS material builder. RS mat fabric. Let's copy that and paste it in here, just on the top level. That should be fine for now. Now we can place down also a background, like a backdrop. We can bend it a little bit. Let's get the capture region. Just bend it a little bit, like that. And a transform node and a subdivide. Let's subdivide it like 3 times. That should be fine. And let's place it behind our subject to just get a small backdrop geometry here. That should be fine. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Now let's have a look. Okay, the distance should be also fine. Now we can, for example, place our focus distance. Let's copy that and paste that into our redshift focus distance. 0.1. Let's get a bokeh image. Bokeh. I think that's the right one. Yes. Yes, perfect. And then we will need a light, for example. We can, of course, work with an HDRI, but let's just go with a light here. RS light 01. And let's get I will go for light texture to get a little bit of imperfection. That one should be fine. And custom gamma 2, spread 0.85, and let's make it big. Let's make it big, and from the left side, for example. And let's go slightly for overhead light and rename that camera 01. Close up 01. No, 01. Perfect. Let's dive inside here and our materials also. Let's set it to white for now and start our render here. Okay, now let's work with the light. So for now the light is okay, it's not bad, but what we can do is just slightly tilt it a little bit, and then I will place another light for background light to basically illuminate our backdrop. Let's go from a above view here. Pull that back. And what I want to do, I want to reduce the spread a little bit, so 0.5 for example. Because what I also want to do is get like a little bit of a rim. That's pretty good here, of a rim light. And now I think our camera is not perfectly centered on the geometry, but that doesn't matter for now. But let's just center it a little bit better, and then get our focus here. And we already got, yeah, circle of confusion is on. And then what I want to do, the backdrop light, let's go -1 EV, and on our maybe -2. And then on the fabric material, let's get a roughness here started. We can also place a light from under here, of course. And now you can, for example, use something like a normal texture here, so RS texture. What I usually do, I pipe that directly into the surface for first view stage, and then I think number 8. I like number 8. Let's go for number 8 here, and you can see the scale is pretty big here, so we will pipe it up here, maybe like 15 times 15, or like 20 times 20, or scale of 20, and pipe that into here. And you will already see we will get a nice looking fabric kind of texture here. Another thing what I also did down here, what you can do, what I think is pretty cool, let's place down for each connected piece and go for distance along geometry, and just pick the 0, or basically the mesh 0.0 on the start location, and you will get like a random ramp distribution for each individual connected piece. And I think we need to fit that. Yeah. Okay, I'll just place down min max here. You can download that node on my Gumroad. Let's just fit it. And now we can use our dist attribute, color as user data, pipe that into diffuse color, dist with rs ramp to let me just pipe that here. To basically control a little bit our color. So let's enable that. And now we can work basically with our color ramp and recolor our mesh based on that distance. And I think it will give you a really cool look. Let me just place one more light here. Look through light, lock that. I want one more light down here. And I will increase this or decrease the spread a little bit at -4 EV, for example. Yeah, -7. And of course you can also multiply the texture with a light, for example. Like a cold light from down there. Maybe -4. And just play with that. But I will leave it natural for now. -7. Yeah, that's much better. And let's dive back into our camera. Okay. And then, oh yeah, of course, matte fabric, matte background. So add a background material. Render, let's pipe that in here. And you can basically use, for example, the distance too. Let's just do that. You can use the distance here too. So we have our background here. Let's go for distance along geometry. Oh no, distance along geometry. And then you can basically choose like the upper row here. Press enter and you will get this gradient. I think I don't know if it's fitted. Yeah, it's from 0 to 9.9 of course. Dist. Let's fit that also, pipe that in here. And just copy that. And for example, like a slightly bluish color. 2 whites, and let's just see how that will turn out. Nice. So yeah, you can then basically control your background with this kind of ramp and play with that. And maybe you will find a color that you like. Of course, you can also do like from dark to dark reddish color, and then pipe up the roughness a little bit more. So of course, basically that's up to you, but now you can introduce a little bit of color in your background. That's also, I think, pretty valuable. Or you can like make it like really subtle. So of course that's up to you. But I think that looks good for now. Try to play with textures. So you no one will say to you that you will need to use like a fabric texture. You can also use, let's go for Maxon, let's go for noise. Let's go for Luca. So you can also use that, for example. And use a noise in there. Of course, that's way too high here. 0.01. 0.05. That should be fine. And pipe that into roughness and just play with it. And maybe get another color iteration on here, maybe from the orange kind of look to like a purplish. Let's decelerate that a little bit. Then introduce like a second color, for example, copy that in here, paste that here, and get the complementary, and decelerate that a little bit. So of course, that's fully up to you, and you can try that out on your own. But I hope that inspired you a little bit, and you learned a few new techniques. And yes, I hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next one.